the things that he said was he drew his conclusion from the fact that when he looked at the number of variants in the text, okay, you've got these copies coming down, and if they were copied, and human errors came in, how many human errors came in? Well, he said there were 200 to 400,000 variants, more than all the words in the New Testament. And he says, so you see? Now, that's just not fair. Tell the folks why.
Yeah, Barthammer makes a lot of true statements in this book, and one of the true statements is there's a lot of variance. Well, what is a variant? As you said, it's if anybody scribed through the centuries misspells something or accidentally misplaces a word, or one of the church fathers. We have 1 million quotes of the New Testament just among the church fathers in the first century and later. And if they quote it wrong or differently, just differently, a word out of order, whatever, it gets recorded as a variant. So, of course, we have a lot of variants. We got a lot of manuscripts. That's a good thing, because when you have a lot of manuscripts, you can compare and contrast and figure out what the original said with a high degree of confidence.
All right, how many manuscripts do we have?
Well, we've got about 5,700 Greek manuscripts, which are the earliest manuscripts. We have, in total, handwritten New Testament manuscripts, about 25 to 30,000 of these. Now, this is extraordinary. When you look back, for instance, in the first century, Josephus was a historian, Jewish historian, worked for the Romans, and he wrote a book called The Jewish War. And now he's a great historian of his generation. Well, today we have 9 copies of his book, and the first one of them was copied in the 10th century. So you have about a 900-year gap between his original and the one that we have that somebody wrote in the 10th century. So that gives you an idea of what is typical. There's very few documents of historians from these early dates. Maybe, you're lucky to have 20 copies of your work if you were a Greek historian.
The fact is, when I went to school, if the teacher passed out the Gettysburg Address and it was printed and she said, copy this, okay? In my class there were A students, B students, C students, and then my friends were there. And the fact is, if we all copied that thing, the A students would hardly make any errors. The C students and D students, theirs looked really something else. But if you collected them all and you tried to compare them, or you did compare them, the fact is you could get back to the original.
Yes.
Now, if you only had 2, an A student versus a D student, you might be up the creek in terms of, boy, the wording is really different.
Yeah.
But you have all the others. The more manuscripts you have, the better chance you have of getting back to the exact original.
That's right. And the fact that we have 70 to 80% of these variants, 70 to 80%, are spelling errors for which there's not even an English translation. These are meaningless. The name John is spelled sometimes with 2 N's, sometimes with 1 N. Who cares? We know who he's talking about. Another example is what's called a movable nu, which is like in English. If I say a book or an apple, we put an N there before the word apple if it starts with a vowel. Mm-hmm. That's just how our language works. Well, same in Greek. And they'll put this nu in there. Well, sometimes it's there and sometimes it isn't. Does it change things? No. If I say a apple, you know